країни.
Форум відбувається з ініціативи Інституту екуменічних студій Українського католицького університету у співпраці із фондом Конрада Аденауера в Україні та Євангелічною церквою Німеччини.
Свідчення стійкості в часі війни, реінтеграція громад та ветеранів, українські спільноти за кордоном, переслідування релігійних спільнот на тимчасово окупованих територіях. Ці та інші питання обговорять експерти з України та за кордону.
У рамках міжнародного форуму відбудуться круглі столи, панельні дискусії, семінари, виставки, майстер-класи. Запрошуємо молодь, активних громадян, студентів, освітян, журналістів, представників релігійних та громадських організацій до участі.
Реєстрація та деталі на сайті is.uku.edu.ua. Форум відбудеться у гібридному форматі – наживо та онлайн.
Glory to Jesus Christ. Good morning. Hello. I would like to welcome everyone, all the panelists. This is the second day of the 17th Ecumenical Social Week. I'm also delighted to greet all those who could also join us online, as well as our in-person participants. As we start with the stories of resilience, this panel, I would like everyone to join us in a short prayer, first and foremost for our defenders, those who make it possible for us to have these discussions, which could be very motivating to all of us, also for all our donors, the people of goodwill who help us with their donations, and to build horizontal connections. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy nature. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Dear friends, I am Otec Schatz. I represent the School of Journalism at the UCU. And we will start with this panel. This is a general topic. For us to learn more about our panelists, before I introduce them, I would like to start with one idea which could be of use regardless of the religious community that you belong to or denomination. I think that to a great extent we're all united by the period of ancient times, and one of the philosophers, I think that we all know about, Plato, in one of his dialogues, namely Phaedor, he gives a recommendations about learning more about wisdom and loving the wisdom, as well as some typologies of communication which could influence people. He says that philosophy or love to wisdom starts with a bewilderment or amazement, which is really important for what many people are doing these days, and it is really important for you to be amazed by what you do. It is important for scaling up this experience. Maybe you feel like partnering up with some of our panelists, and generally that will give some good results. Wisdom, according to Plato, is the truth about different things. That is why we would like to use this time to speak of all these good initiatives, and you learning about them will help us to accumulate this experience. And Plato also states about deep interaction and have a human soul can be changed through communication of truth. So your soul could be changed through this communication of the truth, and it can also impact our behavior. That is why these stories of resilience that we would like to present is the presentation of the truth. This is us facing the reality with all the challenges it brings, us trying and be capable of creating good initiatives even when it appears to some that it is not very relevant or much needed, or maybe it is not so much interesting. However, we understand that it changes the implementation process of different initiatives. I would like to express gratitude to the partner of this event, the Institute for Ecumenical Studies of the Ukrainian Catholic University. Also, it is Konrad Adenauer Foundation and ACADA. I would like to present the panelists of the day. We have with us Olena Dzhedzhora, who is a professor of Ukrainian Catholic University. She is also an author of the Small Stories of the Great War project. Today, we also had Dmytro Fedorchak, who is head of the Leadership and Service program at the Ukrainian educational platform Charitable Foundation. Reverend Roman Grom, who is the priest of the Ukrainian Greco-Catholic Church and the head of the Mahura NGO. I think that on Facebook you read the stories by Roman Grom. They are very interesting to us. Thank you, Reverend, for sharing these stories publicly. And Reverend Yurii Ostapyuk, who is the head of the Lviv Archeparchy Center of Student Chaplaincy and ACT and ACT Mental Health Hub. Let's give a round of applause to our panelists. We will be working until 11:30. Then we will have a coffee break. We have made a previous arrangement that we will have some introductions from the panelists. They will share what they want to share with you. Then we will have a Q&A session. I have some questions that I prepared for our panelists. However, I would be really happy to hear also your questions and to use this opportunity to address these questions to other participants, because they could also help to develop your projects or the ideas that you already have. I would like to invite Reverend Roman Grom to share with us more about different parish activities and initiatives that Roman is in charge of. Glory to Jesus Christ. Thank you for having me. Thank you for this introduction. So I have some 10 minutes for the presentation. Yes, some 10 minutes. I will interrupt you, so do not worry about that. Believe me, I will interfere when it's needed. Yes, that's great. You can see the first word here in this slide. This is Mshanes. This is a village. This is one of the villages where I do my service. Here you can take a look at the map for you to have a better understanding of whereabouts. You can see this red pin. This is the village of Mshanes. It is right on the border with Poland. It wasn't like that always, but now it is. This is Boykivshchina region. This is the village that people know a lot about. There has been a lot of research. You can see the landscape, you can see the mountains, so it looks really picturesque. However, when we want to focus on the topic of resilience, even in pre-war times, it was not so easy for us. In the 90s, when this village in the previous century had 600 pupils, in 2017, when I started working there, they had 100 pupils and they went to a different school. 68 years, that was an average age of people, and there were not many people living in this settlement. The biggest problem of this village and its decay is a lack of communication. You can see the road infrastructure, 18 kilometers to our village, and you can see the road. That is why, of course, there was it was quite a struggle for us. We had some media products made to attract more attention, and finally we have this road. So these 15 kilometers now, it took me some 15 minutes, but in the past that would take me 19 minutes to cover this short distance. But okay, let's not focus so much on road infrastructure because I know that I don't have so much time. However, there was another parallel project that we were implementing, social entrepreneurship. As I later learned, these Samshanetsky koliby. These are traditional Ukrainian huts, and this is something which is very close to nature. These are some places for recreation. This is some kind of a wildlife experience for recreation. The target audience were young people, students. That was a tourist-oriented project, and we decided to launch it despite the fact that we didn't have the road, and we thought that that could be a nice challenge to cover those 15 kilometers of terrible road that we used to have in the past. Now this is the way these huts look. We can have different initiatives here, both for recreation and for studying purposes. We can have 56 people here. It accommodates 56 people. This is social entrepreneurship. It belongs to the community of Shanets, parish community. We are reinvesting in further development of this project, and we plan to focus on other social initiatives in Shanets. Given the fact that we didn't have a good road, there were a few people, there were not enough jobs. That is why it is a seasonal project, and it is an opportunity for locals to get a job for some period of time, which is a really nice achievement with the start of the work. Because we started this project in 2019, we understood that it wouldn't be so easy for us because this village is very close to the border and people are so concerned about the situation. We decided to reformat our activities and to convert them into rehabilitation camps for children affected by war. Originally, these were the children from our community, from our rayon, because our community hosted many displaced persons. We participated in different programs. We submitted project proposals. We had rehabilitation programs with psychologists, with priests, with spiritual fathers. That was a 10-day camp with a very nice program with different excursions, so they could spend some time in these hubs. We have had more than 1,000 children who underwent the 10-day rehabilitation. That was a very holistic approach. It was nicely planned. We have very good feedback. It really changed the children who visited us because they had so many concerns about western part of Ukraine because of some stereotypes that we have about this part of Ukraine. But it proved to be an extremely important experience to us of great value. There is another initiative. These are families of IDPs. We have a case in Mshanet, and thanks to the Ukrainian Catholic University and the Ukrainian Educational Platform, we bought 2 houses for the families of IDPs who have many children, for them to find accommodation and actually for them to settle in here. Well, there is a positive and negative experience, but the third case that you see in the picture, this is a family from the Donetsk region. They have 8 children. They addressed me this year and they said that we know that you are trying to help IDPs. I asked our donors to help us. Unfortunately, this time it was not possible. And you can see this house. It doesn't look very nice. It used to be a house of a priest. And together with community, we started thinking, how can we help this family? And jointly we took a decision that this house and the land will be gifted to a family of IDPs. Now they are my neighbors. They have 5 children. And we are really happy because we can see that there are more children now in our settlement. Well, there is another case. When we had our rehabilitation camps last fall, we had rehabilitation weekends for IDPs families. There was one woman with 7 children, so actually one hat for this family. Yes, a rehabilitation weekend for 8 people. One boy from this family, when they were fleeing from Donetsk, he was traumatized when he was 5 and he stopped talking. He spent 3 days in Mshanet's hut and he started speaking again. And this family was so struck by that. That is why in winter they decided to buy a house in Mshanet. They did some renovations there. So we have human resources now. We have people. We have children, which is amazing, I think. Yes, I think that we can proceed to some other initiatives. Boykivshchina is another project, the Ukrainian Cultural Foundation, Boyko Mandr, that is the name of this initiative. In Strilke community, jointly with Mahura NGO, we are implementing another project. This is a musical park named after Reverend Mikhailo Verbitsky, who used to be a pastor, a priest in this community. He is also an author of music to Ukrainian anthem. We will have musical instruments, and this is a unique story. This is going to be a tourist magnet to attract more people. People will come to this community, and we hope that together with the community, it will be possible for us to implement this project. There's another war-related case. We had an idea to collect funds for UAVs through nativity scenes and carol singing projects. That is why we wanted all those people who did nativity scenes to receive a Christmas star, and we sent it to them. And we mentioned that if during Christmas time you see a group of people performing, having their nativity scenes and singing carols, please donate money to them. So we had 170 Christmas stars made. We had different participants. Some of them just donated money. We had more than 260 participants, and we managed to gather more than 5.5 million hryvnias for brigade number 80 for UAVs. And in Mshanets, yes, this is the picture where you can see it. On the 13th of January, we had a meeting of all those teams and bands participating in this project, and we managed to set a record of Ukraine when we had the biggest number of Christmas bands, nativity scene participants singing together. That was a Christmas meeting. That is briefly about the community, what is really appealing with regard to tourism, and if to speak about involvement of communities, especially during Christmas times. Yes, I'm almost done, but I wanted to say that all of our programs and initiatives, they are being largely threatened because, as I mentioned, this is a border area, And we know that there were some changes introduced into the Ukrainian legislation about the borderline area, according to which we will have a 5-kilometer borderline zone, border area. We used to have this one in the area of the border with the Russian Federation and Belarus. So what about this borderline area? It means that those people who live 5 kilometers close to border need to take a permission for residents at the border guard service. Those who want to enter the village, for example, Mshanaz, 10 days prior to that, they need to have some permission granted by the border guard service. Also, if you want to have some economic activities, you need to have some permit, some authorization from our border guard authorities. Well, of course, I do not want to comment on that, but we know that it's going to turn into a ghetto area, and it means that it will simply die, and those villages will be empty. Because with our projects, what we try to do is to make a difference. However, we understand that this resolution is on paper. We don't know whether we managed to do something about it. And we had different articles because we really wanted to put it on hold. However, it has been suspended. We also have some... It is my wife performing, and you will have a chance to listen to her. So we try to do something about this amendment into the legislation. So could we play the short video with this music for you to be able to hear it? And that's everything on my... Thank you.
Шанця, що це, хто це, де це? То село в Карпатах, на кордоні з НАТО і ЄС. Хочу розказати про одну біду, що на нас валила, слів не підберу. Хтось у міністерстві, мабуть, з Путуна, трохи переплутав Польщу і москаля. Вводять астуцону, та ще спецрежим, на 5 кілометрів вздовж кордону вшир. Вводять зону гетто і спецдозволи, щоб тут проживати, мусимо мати ми. Просто так цю зону не попадеш ти. 10 днів наперед заяву пиши. Хочеш щось робити, дозволу проси. Хочеш щось купити, 10 днів ти жди. Хочеш магазин, тут ферму чи котедж, напиши заяву і замістрі всіх теж. Що будуть робити, на яким авто? Документів мати, треба бланків 100. А швидка й пожежна не спасуть людину, бо про в'їзд сказати мусить за годину. Чи інфаркт купив, чи горить вас хата, мусите годину на служби чекати. Що за маячня це, мене не питайте, то Кабмін прийняв це, зону ось приймайте. У цій зоні гетто, на кордоні з НАТО, кілька сотень сіл і декілька міст. Ужгород, Доброміль, Одесу вітайте, бо де Чорне море, правила все ті ж. Гетто більш ніж область, пустка стане тут, де з часів чекняших родини живуть. Виберуть наші села, найбезпечніші, які розвиватись мали б найперші. Прикордонна служба стане цар і Бог, тратить цілу область Україна, ох. Зона гетто, гетто, прикордонне на межі з ЄС, та ще Чорним морем. Зона гетто, МВС, привіт, тебе компас бився, закрутився світ.
Так і живемо, от, якщо про громаду. Отче Роман, дуже дякую, пані Наталю, дякуємо за реп. І я хотів би передати слово до пані Оленки Dzhedzhora та проекту «Малі історії Великої війни».
Дуже дякую. Отже, знаєте, я більше люблю говорити стоячи, з вашого дозволу. І дякую вам, отже, що ви почали з античності, бо для мене, як до історика, знаєте, це звертання, воно є мало не щоденним і дійсно дуже важливим. Я просто пригадую свій стан з лютого 22-го року, коли те, що мене якось постійно приходило в голову і тримало на силі, що це все скінчиться так, як має скінчитися.
Well, as it should be, so that was the Greek-Persian Wars. Greek-Persian Wars, that what I was thinking about. It reminded me of those wars very much. And together with a small group of my colleagues and like-minded people, And like many people present here, we don't do anything. We rather try to preserve and describe what the others are doing. And this is the specificity of our project. Our project is called Some Small Stories of a Big War. And it started in the first days of the full-scale invasion in February, when there were, well, the Ukrainian Catholic University turned into a huge humanitarian hub in a couple of hours. So first we worked with some psychological help, then we provided shelter to IDPs from occupied territories coming to Lviv with dozens and hundreds of thousands, then feeding people, collecting humanitarian aid, and so on and so forth. Here in Khutorivka and on the main campus, they both turned into something incredible. And the main association which worked, and the main association that came to us at the time, that was Noah's Ark. And we understood we cannot ignore this. We cannot just leave it like that. We have to collect these stories. We can't allow this to go into oblivion. We have already forgotten a lot. If you didn't keep a diary or a journal, you don't remember what you felt at the time. So this is how this initiative appeared. The initiative of speaking to those who agreed to talk to you, because not everyone did, and just collecting their testimonies, collecting their stories. It was important for us to have the stories of regular people. We were not interested in political analysis of some military comments, of the testimonies of crimes. We were interested in stories of regular people and how they cope in these inhumane conditions. So we started gathering these stories, and the project started from a small group of 5 persons, and the majority of them keep working on this project. This is an active project, and at different points in time we had up to 50 volunteers who joined us, and the project is completely voluntary. So these volunteers helped us interview people, find the respondents, and so on. I don't even want to use the word respondent when it comes to these people. They also helped transcribe these videos. They are quite long ones, that like starting from an hour and, well, more than an hour. Gradually, we found the partners for our initiative, and these were Espresso TV, Media Project Ukrainians, Nakipilo Radio from Kharkiv, Nadotek Radio from Zaporizhia. And we also were supported by the initiative called Documenting Ukraine, which is located in Vienna, in the Vienna Institute of Humanitarian Research. They got very interested and they started supporting us. So from the moment when from that time, the military situation changed and our behavior changed. We stopped looking for people in Lviv, but we started organizing expeditions, and we had 5 expeditions so far. And these expeditions allowed us for collecting documentary testimonies not only in Lviv, or not only from people who go through Lviv, but in the field, Bucha, Vinnytsia, Zhytomyr, Odessa, Zaporizhia, Kyiv, Mykolaiv, Kherson, Kharkiv, and later on, we managed to go closer to the contact line. For example, our last expedition sent a small group of people to interview those members of our community who are now fighting at the front line. So we went to the place of their service. Project is related to the initiative of Pavlo Didula, who is also a combatant, and with the agreement of his commanders, he started interviewing his peers, and he has about 40 interviews like that. We have in general about 300 stories, 54 have been published on a media version. 18 stories have been translated into English. Some of them have also been translated into German and Italian. So the project has two focuses. One part of the project, this is the media part, and there is another part which is more important for us personally. This is this documentary part. we are collecting testimonies, and what do we feel when doing that? We feel that this process has some sense and it has some sensitivity. When it comes to the senses of this project, it's no doubt that the present Russo-Ukrainian war is a turning point in history. Really, in the global history. And therefore, we cannot have too many documents like this. We have to preserve them, conserve them, and let the next generations use them. And the sensitivity is that much of the information cannot be published right now, including because of the security reasons for those who live close to the front lines or those who fight at the front lines. That is why this platform is so important. At the moment, this platform has already been created. It is been tested, and we are filling it with these documentary materials and testimonies. And thinking about what we managed to do and what we are doing and continuing to do, I would like to speak about, focusing on the human-centeredness of this process. So this is where the name came from, like Small Stories of a Big War. And we have published a collection of these stories. It's about resilience of communities because it was published by our online publishing house in Lviv, which undertook all the everything that was connected with the printing this book, so the financial and also the organizational matters. So Small Stories of a Big War. So why so? Why did we decide to choose this title? Because we speak about putting the right emphasis and changing the emphasis, and this project helps us understand how big small things are, and how those things we usually call big ones, to what extent they are not that big. And that's why we keep to this title, and this title is very important for us. When we started this project, we did not think much about resilience. Some extent, it was a reaction of our despair. We had to do something. But at the same time, we see that resilience is something we can see in each of those stories told by people. And it helps us through feeling this pain and feeling for this person, and through our fear we can actually come to courage, and the sufferings make us stronger. It is important that after the first year of the project's existence, I was trying to analyze these stories, and I was speaking about the fact that there are some common features we can find in all interviews of ours, like the ideas about the beginning and the end of war. What concerns the beginning, this war has been waged for 10 years, but before February 2022, many people thought there is no war, but in February this realization dawned on them. And then also this state of numbness and also a high degree of empathy. Many people said that we have already won because we don't lose our human side. We are not like our enemy. And the feeling that I do too little, this is the dominating feeling of 2022, I guess, or the shock of how much our enemy hates people, and many, many other things. Now, when it is already the third year of the full-scale invasions, the situation is changing and the emphases are changing, and I would say that we moved from the Noah's Ark to the Book of Job, and still, these stories have something common, and this is the basis for our resilience. And this is the ability to love. Just seeing how these people can love the country, their near and dear ones, the nature, everything around them. They value their life. They love the life. And I think the West does not understand it, because very frequently they say Ukrainians fight because they want to fight. Ukrainians don't want to fight. But they value what they have a lot, and they are ready to defend it. And love is the basis for all this. There is an incredible number of examples of various manifestations of this love, and this fascinates me. This makes me resilient. This ability to love, despite the fact that you understand that it may end at any moment, but you're not trying to escape this. This is this ability to love. And this is something incredibly big and incredibly strong. If I have some time, I would like to draw some examples. May I? Well, the first example which I thought about when I came into this hall were these beautiful embroidered towels. And I remember the first interview that was a resident of Kharkiv. She was escaping on the 22nd of February with two small children from northern Saltivka, and she was trying to save her children. So whatever she managed to take with her from her home, which was which the missiles were aiming at, that was the documents, keys, and also a bag with Ukrainian embroidery, because she likes it very much. And she left everything to burn down, and these towels, they are in front of my eyes. And this is, by the way, embroidery from Slobozhanщina, a historical region of Ukraine, and it's quite a rare one. Another thing which impressed me a lot a bit later, and this is also a sign of great love. This is the story of one combatant who witnessed the death of another combatant, of his fellow combatant, and he suffered a big injury. He was transported. He lived through 7 complicated surgeries, and when he came round a long time after that, without 2 legs, with 2 legs amputated, he told me about the first emotion which he felt when he realized the situation was not hatred, was not the wish to take revenge, it was not despair, it was not asking how so, but the first emotion was happiness, that he will be able to see his wife and his daughter. This happens only with big love, and this is very important. I could tell you a story of a Lviv man. He used to work in IT industry, but then he went to serve in the army, and he spent the last couple of months in Pokrovsk, and he wrote to his mother how beautiful the city is and how much he loved it, and that he cannot just see that it is being wiped off the face of the ground. They have been withdrawn, but during that time, that was 3 weeks, he saved 3 cats from that city, and these cats, all 3 of them, are now IDPs in Lviv. Cats. These are incredible examples of resilience, and I think it is very important not only to preserve them, and also to collect as many of them as possible. But we should also spread these stories. I think that they have to be heard not only in Ukraine, but also among our immigrants abroad, and also among our friends abroad, and even those who are not our friends. because this is the most important. This is the senses of this war, and this is what should definitely help us. Thank you. And now from bravery, empathy, and love, we move to our next participant, and that is Father Yurii Ostapyuk. So please, the microphone is yours. If you don't mind, I will stand here as well, because I want to have a kind of a prop now. The psychologist said that when you stand on both feet and feel the ground underneath, it gives you the feeling of steadiness. And we have been speaking about empathy, about fight a lot, and we are now in the process of fighting, and we all pray for this fight to end as soon as possible. Glory to Jesus Christ. When I was preparing for today's conference, as a very good student, I was thinking about some personal stories, because Father Andrii wrote that it's important to tell personal stories. There are so many personal stories. Olena mentioned about them, and Father Roman and Dmytro will tell more stories. My story of this war is also one of the sources of the mental health hub, Diete. And this is a real situation which is connected with me and a good friend of mine. In the Greek-Catholic Church, he is known, and I see his students from Kiev Seminary, and our brothers from the Protestant Church and the Orthodox Church. This is our Bishop Maxim Rebucha. Well, I think many of you, yes, know him. He is a very good friend of mine. We have been together since 2009. We have been friends since 2009, and he taught me how to work with orphans. And then it happened, so I think this is probably God's providence, or maybe a God's joke, as I call it sometimes. I taught him. He became a bishop, and I will later tell you about those projects. Kyiv, 2022, 24th of February war. It's a shock for us. At that moment, Father Maxim was on the left bank, and Father Salesians have their monastery there, and we mentioned that there were various hubs, like volunteer hubs and so on. People were well organized all around Ukraine. Nobody divided Ukraine into east, west, north, south, and center. Everybody became like one family, at least for me personally. And somewhere in the middle of this turmoil, all those anxieties and fears and those volunteer actions, I called him and I asked, "How are you, my friend?" And he said, "I'm fine." Well, this Bishop Maxim says, I heard from some insider information that the situation is a bit complicated, and the bridges will be blown up. And how is your mother? I know she lives with you, and then children's school, and this is this kind of place. And he said, "I'm not leaving no matter what." And for me, it was a great shock, because warmth, love, a lot of common things, our story which united us. And I understand that at that moment, there was this potential that, well, I could lose my friend forever, and of course he will remain in my memory and in the history, but physically he could die. And that was an interesting moment about vulnerability. I talked a lot with my wife about that, and we cried. We talked about vulnerability in times of war because, on the one hand, we are very steadfast and strong, but on the other hand, we are very vulnerable. So, this is my story, which can also be recorded somewhere because it taught me to many present here value those people whom you knew even before the war. You just knew that this person is there. You would call them and congratulate them on a holiday or something, but now you realize the value of those people you love. So mental health hub Diete. As I've mentioned already with the origins of the understanding of a person's vulnerability, this is our core, especially in times of a great war. My deep persuasion is that this core is heavily wounded by war. These are invisible wars, and they create our vulnerability.
In 2022, Babanacha Street, it is also another of our heroes. There is a center which is helping orphans. We have some friends from Ukrainian education platform. And me, as a representative of the Center of Student Chaplaincy, we started partnering up. It is possible for us to host IDPs, families, some people that we knew since 2014. We also have a volunteer center, kindness. We learned about people from different parts of Ukraine: Pokrovsk, Krasnogorivka, Mariinka, Novomykhailivka, Mirnograd, and many other places. I mean, those of them who had a need to flee, we hosted them. From the Ukrainian educational platform, there were some people who approached us because they knew about the project which combines psychotherapy and spirituality. And they had the following idea. There are so many people who are in pursuit of some senses, support. There was this idea to create a center which could be providing services to support all these people, and that would also be a good tool for us, for our resilience, for us to work on our invisible traumas. That is why we decided to establish the mental health hub known as Diete Act, because there could be different wounds, visible as well as invisible. This is how we came up with this idea. Here you can see the team of ACT, and thanks God we have more and more people joining us. On the 1st of June of 2022, we opened it. We had very many discussions, animated debates about the members of the team, about the roles of psychologists, psychiatrists. What about the role of priests? Those who help in maybe these are the situations who could be of help when things go really bad. Or actually, this is something who works on a permanent basis. We had some fears and doubts, of course, but we had a very important goal in mind: to be able to help a human, to be able to help these people, those who can be supported by professional psychologists, spiritual fathers or mothers, to seek support in such centers where they could actually have some spiritual support related to Christianity, related to relations with God that they already have, to help these people to find answers to the questions which many people had in the beginning of the war. I'm not the head of this hub, actually. I would like to correct you here. Maria Trakalo is the head, that you can see her in the photograph. I'm a co-founder of the Mental Health Hub Act. Maria is a professional psychologist, psychotherapist. She worked in Gestalt therapy. You can see all team members. These are psychotherapists and spiritual fathers and mothers. It's very important that all of them have formal education, because you know that you can find a psychologist on Instagram or on some other platforms, but they will have a 3-month education and a certificate. We have here professionals who work in cognitive behavioral therapy, gestalt therapy, and other directions of psychotherapy. Our mission is to recover dignity of Ukrainians through psychotherapy and cherishing of values. Many Ukrainians who are fighting, many of them, very many of the people that I know, men and women from the Chaplaincy Center as well, many women also help in the army as medical workers. That is why we have another question, who we are as Ukrainians, especially when we feel despaired. How can we restore the feeling of dignity? We hear it from the news that we are being killed, that if we are getting weaker, what can make us feel stronger? It is about the rules that we have. I'm taking a look at the embroidered towels. We had the forum opened with the exhibition. It is about us cherishing these traditions. We know that we are firm. Our vision is to take care of mental health, and it is a norm for all Ukrainians, which is essential because we understood that psychoeducation is something that Ukrainians are not easily agreed to do. That was something that was being damaged and killed in Soviet times, as was deemed as something negative. It is very important for us that we have professional psychologists, psychotherapists, and spiritual fathers, mothers. Quality is at the heart of everything for me. It's important for us to work at a deep level on invisible wounds. We also have the clergy representatives. It's important for them to have individual psychotherapy, group psychotherapy. We have supervisors for our spiritual leaders. This is some spiritual support, spiritual supervision that you can have. It is for people, it is about people. What is at the center is a human-oriented approach. The person who is traumatized without mental well-being. Well, we know that when we have different projects for our students, for our seminarians, we know that when they work on their mental health, then their parish will thrive. We believe that mental health is of the utmost importance, the same way as spirituality is for Christians. Here you can see different areas of our activities. We have some social cases, as I have mentioned before. There are more details that you can find in this slide. We have different psychoeducational lectures. We have online lectures with Maria Trakalo. We recorded 6 lectures on the difference and interaction of spirituality and psychology, and there is another important lecture on dignity and spirituality that you can find on different resources, and these are our team members. We also have female spiritual supporters, and it's really important sometimes when it comes to the spiritual aspect. Some people have a request to have women as those who could support them. We also have Maxim Verbalchuk here. He works in cognitive behavioral model. He has his own spiritual father. He is a very good spiritual father. And people have a choice. It's important. Some people, they want to work with those who are not representatives of the clergy. We have more than 1,000 beneficiaries. We have online and offline sessions: Ukraine, Iceland, the US, Poland, Great Britain, Italy, Canada, France, Germany, Belgium, the UK, Spain, the Netherlands. This is the geography of the project. For those of you who are interested, you can scan a QR code that you see in the slide to get to know more about us, because we provide professional psychoeducational services as well as spiritual supervision. That is everything. Some personal stories and some information about the Mental Health Hub. Thank you, Reverend Yurii. It is a pleasure for me to invite the head of the Leadership and Service Program, Dmytro Fedorchak, and I will try to explain why you're the last one to present. It is exactly because the Ukrainian educational platform supported all those initiatives which have just been presented by other speakers. That is why I would like to provide a summary of all the activities of the Ukrainian educational platform in times of war. And maybe, Dmytro, you could also share with us what could be your path as a representative of different religious communities in terms of interaction with you, those who are behind many social initiatives. But if I may, I will be standing, because, yes, I think that I have a better feeling of time when I am standing. Yes, it means that I will respect the time given to me for the presentation. Thank you for a very interesting panel and presentation. I would like to tell you more about the Ukrainian educational platform. So we, as Charitable Foundation, cooperate with different institutions, private, public, religious, secular, and the program of the leadership and service that I'm responsible for is actually the one which interacts with church in order to elevate the role of church. This is our main goal, and there are two dimensions in which we work. On the one hand, we try to communicate it to churches. We try to show that parishes, the different denominations, priests, they can use many tools to develop their service and leadership. We also try to articulate to donors, because sometimes, when you want to receive a grant, there are three categories which cannot receive it: political, religious, and terrorist. So you are not really eligible if you belong to any of these categories. And we really want to articulate that maybe it's not a very good idea to have terrorists and religious organizations in the same line of the project description. We have partners in different locations because some parishes were under occupation. Some of them are still under occupation. Some of them are already in liberated territories. One of the distinctive features that we see is that the clergy, these are the people who take a decision to stay because of their values. And probably they are the ones that can help you a lot, because very often they decide to stay because it is their religious conviction. It is not because they didn't have enough time to flee or the opportunity didn't present itself. I think that we can focus on values here, because for us at the Ukrainian Educational Platform Charitable Foundation, there's a certain range of values that we honor. First of all, faith in God. This is a key value. It is about Christian values. We are a Christian organization. The terms that I use quite often is an adequate Christianity. When you address secular partners, many of them have some negative stories, some flashbacks, some stereotypes that they have about Orthodox, about Protestants, about Catholics. So oftentimes you have to start partnership not just from scratch by explaining who you are, but actually you need to explain how you are different and why you are different, and that this is the reflection of our faith in God. It is about many social and also innovative projects that we undertake, because social entrepreneurship, for example, that is something which is a novelty when you want to have a bakery in a village, or a coffee shop, or some small garment business where people can also find employment. Faith in Ukraine, our belief in Ukraine, this is another cornerstone of our philosophy. We are patriots. It's important for us to disseminate it. We, as the educational platform, try to be represented in different parts of Ukraine. We are helping those who share this value, also those people who are outside of Ukraine, but they also believe in Ukraine and they're ready to partner up with us. Another one is respect to the dignity of a human being. It is another essential value. It took us some time to find it, but it really helps us to build our cooperation. As an organization, we could see some niches which have not been discovered sufficiently and explored. These could be the topics of safety of children. This could be some policies for church organizations. We know how important it is. There are some immediate threats, and also there could be some other questions related to safety of our children. In our educational programs, we have a series of workshops on inclusive communication. We focus on communication with people who are different from us, for us to have a good understanding of this communication, how we can be respectful. It is respect to dignity. And another one is synergy through cooperation. As an organization, we are in constant search of partners, those who could help us, and we could help them. As far as this principle is concerned, sometimes you can find cooperation and support where you didn't even expect it. There could be one interesting case that I would like to share with you. I think it was spring of 2022 between Irpin and Bucha. In this location, there were volunteers from Norway. It was a partner organization, and they were true Vikings. They had so many tattoos. They had tattoos on their faces. And I had some fear, to be honest, because it is our Soviet legacy, I think, that I wasn't sure about these, how people will perceive those people with their faces tattooed with runes. When we went to one of the villages and met a woman whose house was destroyed, and I introduced a friend, a partner from Norway, a Viking, was a tattoo of a skull. She started crying and hugging him because she mentioned that it's so important that the world still remembers about that we are not forgotten by the world. And this Viking also started crying as a little boy, and it was such a nice moment, which also dispels some of the stereotypes that I also had, because I had some concerns, to be honest. However, this is a very good example of how synergy through cooperation works in reality. Some 6 months ago, in the city of Dnipro, in Mahura Jewish Center, we had an event organized dedicated to Metropolitan Andrii Sheptitsky. He is a well-known ecumenical figure as well, because he communicated with Jewish communities. He is one of the most leading personalities in Greek Catholicism. It is about our communication interaction with Dnipro and the Jewish community that we have, and we try to see where we could reinforce each other through this cooperation. This is also one of the principles in action. Another one is responsible leadership. That's another principle we stick to. With the full-scale invasion, we could see that the regular leadership, when we just tell people where to go, in what direction doesn't seem to be very effective. What works in parishes is responsible or silent leadership. These were people who were ready to assume responsibility for different activities, the organization of hubs, organization of aid. Through this responsible leadership, smaller hubs, we could see how it grows, how it scales up. Now we can see different projects, recreation complexes, mental health hubs. It is not only about you being praised for your leadership, it is about responsibility that you take, and it bears really good fruit. I think that it will be possible for us to see the importance of all of that only later. And briefly, I will also speak about our activities. So we have leadership and service sector. We have 3 levels of program. The first one is for the beginners, for those people who want to start some social projects, an active church in communities. This is the way we call it, when we have a priest, a pastor, have an idea related to service, spiritual service. They want to open some initiatives, some business. The second one is social innovations of communities. This is when people come to us. This is a module program for 5-6 months, and we help them to grow. The third level of responsible service is when we go to other places, to other priests. We try to understand what their need is, what these religious communities need, what they want to invest into. And then we have some experts engaged who could help with that. So we pay visits to these communities to help communities to accumulate their resources for better service.
And then the 4th level, we invite them to our communities where we have ecumenical experience exchange, because if a person could not find something, for example, in their region, an example they would like to start or launch, or they couldn't see that in the Greek-Catholic Church, but there is a service they can see in an Orthodox parish or in a Protestant parish. So this works for experience exchange, so that ideas can be exchanged, cases can be exchanged, and also failures can be exchanged. Because, some failures, you can learn from somebody else's mistakes in some cases, so it also helps understand what should not be done or what could be improved. So to conclude, if we characterize the resilient community, I really like the words Bilbo Baggins mentioned at his birthday. He said that I don't know half of you half as much as I would like, and I love half of you, half as little as you deserve. So this is the same with us, because it's a great group of great people who help each other, and this is the community which is quite independent, because you cannot always control all those processes taking place, but these are good processes helping share our values. Thank you. I would like to sum up what we've been talking about, and if you have any questions, please raise your hands. We have volunteers. I already see one question. We have volunteers who will give you the microphone, and meanwhile I would like to sum up what we have been talking about. So this is just my personal summary, and I hope you found your favorite things. So the road as a model can be built, but you need to be brave and persistent, and this is a key to change us. The second thing, this is that rap will save the world. So we can draw attention to some piece of information, no matter how dramatic a situation looks like, but you just need a bit of creativity and a lot of persistence, then 300 of stories from life, which have already been recorded, which are meaningful, which are full of emotions and feelings of people. And you can become a part of the story. You can share the story you are living through. So this is about small stories of the big war. And asking for help is normal. Don't be afraid of that. And if your religious convictions in some way resist this idea of asking for help in terms of mental health or other things. Today we heard information that a priest, a pastor can actually help the life of their community if they work on their own mental health problems. So the suggestion, and there are some suggestions where you can do that. Help is possible, even those where you don't expect it. And don't be afraid of asking not just for mental help, but also for ideas, positive values, help, innovations, which is very important. Positive and Christian values help innovations, and responsible leadership is the key to changes and resilience of our communities. So these are just a couple of things just as a recommendation from our today's panelists, and I'm passing the mic to the person who would like to ask the question. Glory to Jesus Christ. I'm Yurii. I'm a PhD student at Kyiv Orthodox Theological Academy, and I would like to thank everyone for very interesting presentations. And I would like to ask Dmytro about his opinion, but maybe other speakers will also say something. Have you heard anything about the notion of the educational championships and whether it exists right now and whether it will have any continuation in the future? I think I should pass it on to Father Yurii. I think he's more competent in this question. Thank you, brother. Yes, educational chaplaincy is in our Greek-Catholic Church. Father Yurii Karvatsky, he is responsible for that, if I'm not mistaken. This is about for school children. This is also for students, higher educational institutions, and church, as it is officially said that they are, well, officially separate, but at the invitation of rector, priests may be present. In this case, we are in all big higher educational institutions of Lviv. This is Lviv Polytechnical University, Ivan Franko National University, then Trade and Economic University, and so on and so forth. It makes sense because there are many students from central, southern, northern, eastern regions of Ukraine, occupied and deoccupied territories of Ukraine, who, thanks God, managed to leave those places. They come to study in these universities, and we see that students are seeking their Ukrainian identity, no matter how weird it may sound from me. And they're, well, seeking Ukrainian history, and they are also seeking for census. And we have faced a problem because I also study at the Ukrainian Psychotherapeutic Institute, and our trainers actually are very happy that our priests and nuns and monks who study psychology, because they say that in some situations they cannot help a person when the person asks, like, where is God in this war? So yeah, it does make sense, at least for me personally. I have seen that for more than 10 years, and, well, I've been working as a chaplain for more than 10 years. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes? Just a moment, we will give you the microphone. And I would like to remind you that we have about 15 minutes left, so I really invite you to discussions. I have a short question. You mentioned the book Small Stories of a Big War. Is the book still worked on, or has it been published already? Because I haven't heard about it. Thank you. Here it is. I couldn't but bring it here and to brag about it. It's fresh from press, and you can buy it in the Stary Publishing House, and it can be also bought at our campus in Kozelnicka Street. It is already published, and we are very happy about that. Thank you. Well, that was a very short question, in fact. So, Olena, I would like to add to this while we are waiting for other questions. No, we have another question here. I would like to thank all the speakers, and I had the following question. You know, when a child falls, it looks at the parents' reaction, whether they will be afraid or will be calm and will react accordingly. So my question is, what is the role of personality of a leader in the development of resilience of a community in critical situations? I think this is a question to all panelists, okay? I'll start with Olena then. Well, in fact, it's a very good question because I've been trying to think about it all the time, and I think everybody has their own answer to this question. But my personal answer is that the role of this conductor, or leader who is there in a small community, is just to be there, to listen. And this is very important because people want to be heard, and this is what supports them. And this really helps them feel their dignity when they feel that they are worth being listened to. And everything else is added to that. As St. Augustine said, love. This question is very similar to the one I wanted to ask you personally, because you spoke about responsible leadership, and here we have this question of how important it is to be a leader. Well, the question is, how do you transform into a responsible leader? And what do you think? What is the model of a contemporary leader in the context of the war in Ukraine? Well, as a Ukrainian educational platform, we are trying to find the so-called stars, as we call them, people who have undertaken some commitment, are doing some section of works. Let's put it that way. So these are people who do a lot, but probably not completely professionally. And we are trying to equip this person, to help this person to professionalize this experience so that this service becomes as professional as possible, first of all. And secondly, for the person to understand how to develop that. Like maybe the person needs not to spend that much time working on a project, but develop a team so that the priest who has a lot of young people who are ready to help, involves them into this project. And answering your question, it seems to me that a great task for the leader is not to become an idol, because there will be a time when the leader gets tired and they say that they need to get some rest. And if you show that you are very strong, that you're invincible, and then you say you want some rest, the community will be broken. So at some point, the leader needs to be able to say, I'm not leaving you, but I need some time to restore. And this is an example for the others as well, because as we have already understood, this war is not 2-3 weeks. It's a long-term marathon, and we have to understand how many percentage of charge we still have in our power banks and when it's time to recharge it. So that brings us back to this resilience matter, because it's very important for a leader. Well, continuing on the topic, when you asked this question, I recalled when I studied in the seminary, one older priest explained to us the difference between the idea of a priest in the Catholic tradition and in the Eastern tradition. And what was very memorable for me was that in the Western tradition, the priest seemingly represents heaven, is as if an angel bringing blessings and showing this grace to everyone. And in the Eastern tradition, a priest, as we were explained, is the first ram who leads the herd. And I actually remembered that. And it seems to me a leader is important when there is a critical situation. That is the time to be strong. When everyone will have lost their faith, you still have to have this invisible ground which helps you stand. And this is from my personal experience of fighting for the road. At that time, you have to be strong. After that, you will be tired. You will have to take some time to recharge. But at that time, you have to stand, and then people will keep moving and will not lose their faith. So these critical moments are very important in leadership. I agree with everything. And this is something that I agree with a lot. And this is what we apply in our chaplaincy. There's Larisa Dzhedzhora, a teacher of mine, and you have to understand that, well, she said that there are two good pieces of news. The first one is God exists. Well, and that shocks many people who do not believe in God. And the second one, it's not you. So for a leader, it's very important to remember that he or she is not a God. So when we speak about working with hearts, this is about a lot of anxiety, because a classical leader would have to know everything, would do a lot of micromanagement and so on. But this is classical approach. In my understanding, this is also the ability to trust and to delegate. This is what Dmytro said, that you have to understand your weaknesses as well as your strengths, and also you have to be able to take some time off sometimes. And I'm convinced that it's important to see and face your dark sides, not escape from them, because dark sides are in every person. Some people call them weaknesses. I call them vulnerabilities. You have to face your vulnerability. It's very important. Talk to it. Ask it, what are you afraid of? So this horizontal understanding of a leader who does not look at you from the top down, but horizontal understanding of a leadership that you see a person in other people. Any other questions from the audience? Please pass the mic. Glory to Jesus Christ. I'm Brother Vitaly. I am from the Kyiv seminary. And this is a question probably to Father Yurii, because it's more of a psychological nature. We frequently speak about integration and adaptation of combatants returning from the front lines, from the prisons and captivity, combatants who have been wounded. But it seems to me there is a problem of adaptation and the right perception by the society of those people who return. Because we frequently encounter these models when we don't know how to react, when we see people with amputations or people in wheelchairs. So what is the role of communities here, and how do we react in the right way? I know it's a very complex question and you need to prepare to answer it properly. But what is the right thing to do? Because I myself sometimes find myself in the situations where I don't know whether it's better to keep silent or to say thank you or to hug a person or to do something else. I also see the same reactions on the part of the combatants themselves, which is quite unexpected. And, well, you're always afraid of a conflict or a misunderstanding. Well, before we start, I would like to ask whether your question is any similar. Thank you. I would like to stress that I'm only studying. I'm not a psychologist yet, but people come with situations like that, especially at various other conferences, and my observations are, and I've listened to many interviews of the combatants, that our society has to learn to live with the combatants returning. But also those combatants returning, they also have to learn to live in the society. So this is a two-way street. Because when these men come back and they and you ask them, Ihor, what stresses you out the most? And he says, I say, no, nothing. And he says, I know that I came back to my wife. I came back to my child. I'm a civilian. Well, I have only 2 days of my leave, and I want to spend them as a civilian. It's a very long process, and as a society, we have to understand that a husband, a brother, beloved who went to the front lines, they come back as a different person. We have to realize that. And then trying not to turn our eyes from them, because there's this feeling of general guilt, which has also been imposed on many people. And I watch my students when we met with that person, and they feel guilt that they are not at the front lines, and they think I'm a bad person because I'm not there. So we have to understand that this combatant is a person. Yes, this is a person without a leg or two, or without a hand, but you should not turn away from them. Try to look them into the eyes, because maybe this person doesn't want to look you into the eyes. We don't know what this person has gone through. So it's not about starting to save the person immediately when you see them. It may scare a person off. The person may want to protect their personal boundaries, but also not turning your eyes away. Maybe you will start a discussion, or when you start talking, ask them where they are from, what they like, what they don't like. So there are many methods that could be applied here, but not making them dead while they're alive. And thanks God they are still alive, and let them live for many years and bring up their children and grandchildren and grandchildren. So this is just a short answer. So trying not to feel too much guilt, and trying to establish this at least eye contact, because they say people hate us, they don't look at us. So try to make this space as friendly as possible, and also learn, both we and they have to learn to coexist and live together, because there are visible ones and invisible ones.
Yeah, so I can only give you a piece of advice as a person who was in some contact, because the man that I've mentioned, the amputee without both of his lower extremities, he did wonders, because he doesn't share it with me, but he shares it with his wife, that sometimes it's really frustrating for him how other people react towards him. The first thing is that he understands that sometimes people can try to avoid other people because of the feeling of guilt. Yes, I know that I have prostheses, but they are really wounded when people are trying to avoid them as if they are lepers. And I think that it's really important to have more love and not to avoid these people, but really to try to do more. And the second one, and it could be a contradiction in itself, he says that he deserves this respect, that he has deserved this respect for what he has done. He really wants to enjoy this feeling. How do we strike this balance? I'm not sure about this one, actually. It is work in progress. It is the process that matters. Yes, Dmytro, over to you now. I think that I would like to emphasize on a different situation when there is too much attention. I really like this expression that we intended to build a castle. However, what we build is something different. It is a cage that we have, an aviary. Sometimes it is too much of this care and everything overprotection, and it doesn't have a very good effect. That is why it is important for churches, for parishes to understand that they no longer have to be beneficiaries or receivers of your support. It's important that they grow up, that this is peer-to-peer attitude, that you're our partner. Just try to do something different. Just try to let them go, especially when we already have reintegration happening. We need to strike a balance, not to avoid and not to overprotect at the same time. And last but this question, I'm not sure whether we have a lot of time for this question, but yes, that is going to be the last question. Dialogue in Action, Tatiana Kalnechenko. There will be another panel where we will focus on our military. I have a question to all our speakers. Maybe you have some short answers. Very often when we have different training, especially psychology trainings, we hear a lot that from priests that it's great, you have different types of care, but in what you try to teach us there is no God. And very often there is this question, what about God here, when you try to have different programs for psychological services? This is not an easy question. I'm still in pursuit of an answer. However, if this question arises, I always answer that I am with you. What is it that you want and what is it that you need at this moment? I'll be very brief. There is a quote from the Gospel that look and you will find, knock and the doors will open. When I have this question, that I always say that God is in hearts of those people who are saving those who want to commit a suicide, which is not always clear. Why would you want to save a life of a person like that? However, it's important for me in terms of understanding where God is for me. Where is God in times of war? I have found an answer to this question, and it's clear to me that there is no God in war. It's not in war, and God is only present in us, not in wars. Thank you. Quite an unexpected ending to this panel discussion. What I would like to add here to what has already been mentioned, I think that when we speak of this psychological and spiritual aspect and distinction, it's not a good idea to detach them, especially if you had draw a parallel to physical and mental well-being. A Mental Health Hub is a good example of how you can cover two of these dimensions. Well, I'm sorry for being probably chaotic with my answers. I think it would be good for this methodology to be used in superhumans and unbroken, when it is not only rehabilitation for amputees, which is offered physiologically, value-based, dignity-based, but at the same time, you could also have this type of support at a psychological and spiritual level. This is my answer. An answer of the moderator of this panel discussion. There was another question that I had about how you cope under given circumstances, but I think that one of the answers is drinking good coffee. That is why another point on our agenda is a coffee break. We would like to invite all our offline participants to break for coffee. So today we have Olena Dzhedzhora, a professor of the Ukrainian Catholic University, the author of the project The Small Stories of the Great War, Dmytro, Fedorchak, the head of the Leadership and Service program in the Ukrainian educational platform Charity Foundation, Roman Grom, a priest of the Ukrainian Catholic organization, Mahura NGO head Yurii Ostapyuk, the head of the Center of the Student Chaplaincy of the Lviv Archeparchy of the Ukrainian Catholic Church, and a co-founder of ACT Mental Health Hub, Konrad Adenauer Foundation, Evangelical Church of Germany are our partners. In 22 minutes, we will meet here. You already met the moderator of the event. We will be speaking about reintegration of